people representing it, if you will.
100%.
The people that run it.
100%. Nowhere in the Bible does it say there's a middleman.
Right.
That the biggest one today is stewards the resources, or I like it. Pastors will say, "I'll invest the we'll invest the resources for God." Nowhere in the Bible does it say that middleman is between you and God.
Yeah.
So we've positioned ourselves there, and now we're trying to justify it. I can't wait to meet with a pastor, and we haven't been able to sit with one yet, that just says, "Yeah, my operation costs X and Y, and it is given through the generosity of donors because they enjoy what we've created." Awesome. Just like, guess what? I take my daughter to history museums and I put my little donation in the front because I want this history museum to stay open, right? But what they've done is we've built, or what we've done, because I'm a part of this, is we've built systems that are extremely money hungry. And so we look back in the Bible and we cherry pick one or two scripture verses and we mash them together and we say, aha, this is where we're going to get our resources from. Well, you threw out the other 50 pages that explained what that verse actually meant, you know? And so we've built institutions off misunderstood or misrepresented or straight up bastardized scriptures. And now we're trying to justify it. And so you're trying to justify something that's just culture. Every other pastor I talk with is trying to justify something that's just culture. Sean Ryan, like, in our conversation, he was trying to justify it. And I'm like, it's not necessarily bad, the building itself, but we're justifying something that we've built. It has nothing to do.
So you want to, and I mean this in a not negative way. You're like, we got to cut out the middleman here. We've created a middleman. This is supposed to just be like, you have a belief system, and if I'm referring to Christianity, that believes in like God and Jesus, and that's what the church is, as opposed to like this physical business structure that we put between it that has its people representing it, if you will.
100%.
The people that run it.
100%. Nowhere in the Bible does it say there's a middleman.
Right.
That the biggest one today is stewards the resources, or I like it. Pastors will say, "I'll invest the we'll invest the resources for God." Nowhere in the Bible does it say that middleman is between you and God.
Yeah.
So we've positioned ourselves there, and now we're trying to justify it.
So Jesus says, "Render to Caesar what's Caesar's." So he's actually saying, like, pay your taxes. And then he says, give to God what's God's. So where is man to come in there and say, this is God's money? Right?
I want to steward it for you, Julian.
And then in Matthew 25,
I'm with you. Yeah.
Jesus, God incarnate, saying that if you do to the least of these, and he's talking about the prisoner, the sick, the person who doesn't have a shirt, right? The homeless person. He's talking about all these poor, marginalized people. And to the least of these you do to them, you're doing it to me. And that's a very powerful scripture, which is on Nathan's forearm for a reason. Because if the money's not flowing that way, we're all for generous giving. But there needs to be transparency there.
100%.
If the money that you are saying is for God isn't going to where God calls us to put that money, then what are we doing?
I think if you are unwilling to share those details as a hypothetical pastor, let's say, then you have something, the assumption is you have something to hide.
100%.
And I completely agree that these places, if you are going to have places where people have an outlet to go bounce things off other people of their faith and have a safe place to practice their religion, yes, there has, in my opinion, there has to be some money that goes into that to be able to allow that to happen, including the people who work there. But it should be law in this country that you have to be transparent about that. Just like politicians allegedly have to be transparent about who donates to them. Why should it be any different if a church enjoys all the IRS rights and the separation from power being able to take them out? Shouldn't a requirement of that just be like, hey, we can't tell you what's right or what's wrong, but you at least, if you make $2 million, you have to tell people you make $2 million. If you make $2, you have to tell people you make $2. Like, why is this so hard?
Well, the government saw this problem in the late 60s and early 70s. So right after that 14-point checklist comes out, bad players are starting to move into the space. And so I think the senator's name, and don't hold me to the fire, is Senator Mark Hatley, or Hatfield. But he puts together, what was it?
Hatfield.
He puts together a basically a bill, and it says, hey, this is getting out of hand. We have a mouse-sized problem right now. We have the Jim and Tammy Faye Bakers of the world, like starting to raise hundreds of millions. And this is because of technology, right? So they put this bill together, and it's basically, hey, Julian, if you have a church, or Nathan has a church, and Julian wants to give to my church, all it was Julian has the right to ask Nathan where the money is going and see the books.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty reasonable.
Sounds reasonable.
It's like, hey, Julian, you've retired. You want to give me $500,000. Hey, Nathan, just show me your budget for the last year and where it went. Well, this is where this idea of separation of church and state comes to play, is the evangelical community is all pissed about this. They're like, we don't want the government telling us what to do, or telling Nathan that I have to show Julian my books. And so Billy Graham and a couple evangelical leaders get together, and they create another organization called the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability. I love those words. Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability. They spin it up. It's another nonprofit. And the goal is, hey, Julian, if you have a church, you can be part of this accountability association, and I'm going to make sure you're above board. Well, the problem is, guess what? I have overhead as the ECFA. And so you're going to pay me once a year to use my little seal on your website or on your mailers. And
looks good.
I'm going to hold you accountable. So it's a conflict of interest right away. My organization is supposed to be holding you accountable, and you're paying me money. So that's not a watchdog group. That's like a handshake group.
Not to defend this at all, but if people open their eyes, myself included, this is something I missed a lot on, and looked at all the different industries around the world where this type of thing is the practice.
For sure.
You would never look at any product you ever bought the same.
100%. Yeah. And so, but our argument is religion, and then the faith we believe in should be held to much higher standards than everybody else. And so the ECFA is formed, I think in 72, maybe 73. And that gets the government to back off. So the bill is dead on arrival, and boom, the ECFA is formed. Another, good intentions pave the way to hell, right? So now we've got this institution that's supposed to regulate the entire Christian industry, and they're giving out these little markers like hotcakes to everybody. Yeah. Guess who was one of the first ministries to climb on board? PTL, which is Jim and Tammy Faye Baker's ministry. They were one of the first to become an ECFA member. The dude went to jail for fraud.
When was that?
He was jailed in the 70s. I can't remember the year.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with that story.
So basically, back in the day, mailers were a big thing, right? It was before pre-internet. TV was around, but like mailers were a big thing. My grandma, till her death, probably 5 or 8 years ago, would still receive envelopes from pastors and ministries all around the U.S. asking for money, and she would put a check in and mail them back. Oh, God. It's just a generational thing, because that was
you couldn't steal that before she put it in the mailbox.
No, I should have.
Never got there.
No, she wrote the pastors' names on them. That's the problem. But you know what I mean. So this is a generational deal. But so these guys would send out 100,000 mailers or 500,000 mailers, depending on how big their list is, and they would get X amount back with cash. And I can't remember, I think it was Barry and Pete at the Trinity Foundation. They said the average mailer would come back with $60 in it. That doesn't sound like a lot.
Add that up, though.
But add that up 100,000 times. In the 70s, you're talking about a lot of money. So all you do is you blast one mailer out a month, and boom, X amount comes back with $60 on average. And you're raising, I think PTL on average, one year their budget was like $140 million for a church. And they were building a Christian theme park, a water
Christian
park.
theme park.
Yeah. A water park, hotels, like all under the guise of a church with no accountability systems in place.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.